Good morning, Lafayette. It is great to talk to you again this morning. I am your meteorologist, Brian Burden, here with your forecast for a brand new week. It is Monday morning, and despite all the crying over the weekend, we are all waking up this morning. Hopefully you're watching me, you're laying in bed, maybe you're running around with the kids and you're getting some chores done or something like that, and you're able to do the things that you want to do, and you're able to do a lot of the stuff that a lot of us are excited to do about on a weekly basis. Sorry about that. I'm pushing some buttons trying to make sure everything's going out right. Hopefully you're hearing me, because believe it or not, I think it was Friday. It was Friday. I did about 15 minutes of the show. Well, no, I didn't. I did an hour show, but after about 15 minutes, everything kicked out. I don't know if it was the internet, what it was. So I did another 45 minutes of the show that you didn't get to see, but I got to do for practice. Of course, there's no tape of that either. I don't have it. It was just kind of funny. It was like, oh, wow, I went past 10 o'clock, and sure enough, it was done and over with. I went back and looked at it, and I'd only done a 15-minute show, and I think that was kind of the internet. There were a lot of folks in the house at that point. Remember, it was the spring break for the kids, and there was a lot of internet being used at that point, and that's probably what kicked me out, but we'll have to see. Hopefully that does not happen again today. Hopefully we are able to talk a bit about weather, talk a little bit about sports that happened over the weekend and the new season ahead for all of us in different reasons, in different ways. And hopefully you are going to be able to enjoy your time today and be able to get out and about, because we might see a little bit of every season here in the next couple of weeks. That's why I kind of put that up there about spring being maybe one. We might see all the seasons during spring, and that happens a lot. We can see snow, we can see thunderstorms, 85, 86 degrees like we saw last week a day, right? And then you can see very dry conditions too. So you can see a little bit of everything in spring, and I think that's why most of us like it, at least in a way, as long as the severe weather stays off of our doorstep, right? That's what we would like to see. But this morning, you are awakening to a very warm morning in the area. Let's take a look at it real quick here. We'll slide right over. 59 degrees under cloudy skies. It does look a little gloomy out there, doesn't it? I'm looking at cameras. I looked outside my window. It's just kind of a gloomy look. Temperatures, though, hovering around 60, are far above the normal high for this time of the year. So we're looking much better, at least on that front. It's warm, right? Very nice and comfy. But we aren't really seeing anything for sunshine at the moment. And with that 59-degree temperature, and it says we're still going to get up to 78, and we'll have to see on that. It also says it's going to be a humid day on here. We'll try to maybe take a look into the RHs. I haven't done that a lot on the forecast. It gets a little complicated with it, but kind of gives you an idea of the feel, right? Because we all know that 80 degrees with 80% humidity is much different than 80 degrees at 50% humidity. At 50% humidity, you don't feel as warm. At 80% humidity, you feel much warmer, and that's just because of the amount of moisture that's in the air, all right? That's why places down in Florida, Texas, along the coastlines are very humid, because they have all that water source there to add to their 85 degrees, right? And so when it's 85 in Lafayette, it's usually not as bad until it taps into the moisture from the south and brings up some of those RHs that can get into the high level. So 59 right now, winds are out of we call that the south-southwest at 10 miles an hour. It says a high of 78 today and a high of 79 tomorrow, so very warm for the next couple of days. And then Wednesday, look at that drop off, so we know if a system's coming through, and then we're back up. Then we're going to try to drop off on Friday. What I see here is lots of raindrops, right? Lots of raindrops. And I've only barely looked at the charts over the weekend, so I kind of have a general idea. I know it's going to rain a lot, and we talked about it last week as setting up. And actually, we've been talking about it for 2 weeks to keep an eye on where it was going to set up. And then we'll try to figure that out here as we go through the charts here shortly. But 59 right now. Let's take a look at where we were over the weekend real quick. I'm going to pop down here. And officially, let's see here. Officially out on, which day was this? The first 80-degree day was March 26th. That was the official first 83-degree day, or the first day of 80 this year, okay? And then yesterday, Let's see what we got on tap. On the 27th, that was the day the cold came in after the system, right? So there was that 86. We had those thunderstorms that night. There was a potential tornado down southwest of or southeast of Lafayette, kind of heading over towards the central portion of Indiana that night. Then right behind that was the cold, right, where we had a day that the average high is 54 and 34 is the low, and we saw a high of only 42 that day, remember, very cold. Then we rebounded nicely, it says here, when we look at this. Actually, we're looking at for today, back up to 65 was yesterday with a normal high of 56, and then here's today. 78, it shows average high 56, average low is 36. So here we are at the beginning of April. We should be starting to see our temperatures. You notice that the temperature's starting to go up rapidly on the average highs too, right? And then it'll get to a certain point and it'll level off. We'll get the arc and we'll start going back down like we do in the fall. So right now we're on that upward swing of the temperatures on that front. All right, so back here you go again, 59 degrees under cloudiest skies. But what does the satellite look like right now? So we've seen what it looks like locally. Now what's it look like nationally? And what I see right now is I can see this big arc of clouds right here. What's that big arc of clouds mean? That means it's warm underneath there because it's generally about where the jet stream is. And when we look at this chart, and then it kind of falls apart and goes off the east coast. So a lot of the United States right now is under a nice warm area, a nice warm pocket for early spring. But no systems. Look at this. Most of the area in the southern half, especially everything east of the Mississippi, and a lot of it just east of the Rockies, is pretty quiet. We have looks like some little system trying to pass through the West Virginia area, maybe over towards D.C. A lot of high clouds there. You can see the low clouds in our picture here with the white, with Lafayette being right about there on that spot. And then we just see a few clouds streaming out from the west. So right now it seems like, there's nothing happening. But things are going to change in the next couple of days, and we'll start to see some of the ups and downs. So remember I told you the trends up were a little longer than the trends down, and we're going to continue that kind of pattern. So a couple of days of cold, couple days, 3 days, 4 days of warmth, a couple days of cold, that kind of thing. So I think we were cold probably. We would all call it Thursday and Friday were cold after the front went through. Well, Thursday was really warm. Friday was cold. Saturday got a little better. Sunday was pretty nice, right? And then today, when warm-wise, is going to be really good, and tomorrow will be. But then we usher in the warmth, and we start to drop our temperatures back off. So, okay, so that's what it looks like there. Let's look regionally, though. Let's come in close so we can see where a lot of the clouds are right now. Here's Lafayette. You can see what I see is a southerly push on some of these clouds here, as you can see them moving off towards from the southwest to the northeast, and yet we got a northwest to kind of southeast band in the upper levels, a little higher up, cutting across. That's the jet stream cutting across, right? So you're getting kind of that rotation around everything, and there may be some showers back towards West Virginia, but for us, we look high and dry right now, and I think we're going to stay that way for a bit. I think we have a visual or two now. We're starting to get this now that it's getting a little later in the springtime. Let's see what it looks like there. And it starts to come up. Oh, sure, starting to pick it up there. I think the blue visible, just a straight blue visible, there you go. Now you're starting to pick it up. And what I do see some tops, so we're getting a mixture of some stratocumulus, cumulus, and then stratus in areas. Stratus is over us right now, all along the I-65 corridor, all of the eastern half of Indiana, almost all of the northern Indiana. Then there's a mixture of some clouds off to our east right now, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to see much in there radar-wise of anything, and sure enough, all we're getting is ground clutter on every radar all around the country pretty much right now, localized anyway. That's what we're seeing on that front. So and so there's where the clouds are right now, with Lafayette being right there. That southwesterly, because of that, look at how far down the clouds go. I do see shredding on the backside of it, and there could be, this looks more like shadows right now. Let's take a look at it back on the let's get a different infrared. Yeah, you can see, no, there are holes in there. That was not shadows. So that's how you can be fooled on the visual very early, because shadows show up really good early in the morning because, you get that angle. And that kind of look like shadows, but this looks more like holes, doesn't it? So that makes me think we're going to get into some. Although the thickest part, and we know it's coming from this direction, right? The movement is that we're going to see it from there. And it looks like we could get some sunshine, but it's going to be a while and it's going to take a bit. And then all dependent on that. The faster we break out, the warmer we'll get this afternoon. And we've seen that the last couple of days also with the nice warm temperatures yesterday when the sun was out yesterday. All right, so moving on from there, I mean, I've kind of got this down here where we're kind of looking at it. We saw what the temperature was, where the wind direction was. We were looking at things. We saw what the kind of the model was going to look like for the next few days based on just generic numbers, right? Now we've looked at a satellite picture. Let's look at some cameras outside and see what we've got out there. Let me see if I can find some of those. All right, so here we are way up on the 231 junction at I-65 looking out, and we can see trucks pretty easily. It's dry up there. We see some clouds. We see some break here or there. It looks like there's some blue over there on the west side of it. Let me see if I can get rid of this. There we go. Now the voice is strong enough till it starts getting scratchy again. All right. Here we are at Remington and looking off, and you see a little bit more of the solidness in spots, but you see the openings here and there too, where the bottom are more of a stratocumulus type cloud. The stratus clouds, you usually don't see a lot of breaks in them. You don't see a lot of forming. It's just kind of gray out there at times. And that's what we're seeing kind of in Lafayette and moving off towards the east right now and towards the northeast especially. All right, here we are at 231 looking back at the exit itself. Same thing. We're seeing lots of low clouds. Are we going to see any difference down this? Doesn't look like it. Wow, there we go. We're seeing a lot of dirt flying in the air there on the junction 231 on the other side. All right, so State Road 18 up north looks dry and high and dry, so we're going to see a lot of that. Here we are at 43 looking at trucks instead of the sky. I'm going to have to call them people and tell them what they need to do, I think. So let's move to State Road 25, and it looks back towards 43, and you can see same thing, kind of gloominess, but boy, the roads are dry. Everybody's driving, no problems this morning. It's a very warm morning. Everybody's getting out and about over at State Road 26 and 65. More of the same thing, just quiet conditions. I can see stratiform clouds, and I can see stratocumulus clouds up there. Up above, more of the same. Oh, I see a few more breaks, a few more bright spots in there on some of the clouds as we look to the south at Dayton. And then as we get to Frankfort, it just seems brighter, but it could be the camera itself. And it looks like I can see some blue right here. And then there's another spot where there's some blue there. So we're starting to just get to that spot where some of the sunshine breaks out. And looking back from the top of the camera there right over everything down by the truck stop. So we got a little bit of everything going on there in that front. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to go ahead and go back, and we'll talk about the College of DuPage page and where we're going to get our forecast models from. We're going to look at the HER first. That's the high resolution rapid refresh model, HER as we like to say in the weather world. And what we're going to be seeing with that, still got that frog in the throat. All right, so short term, here we are. The 12Z is coming out now, the 12Z model run, which is 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's running right now, but it's only 37% done. Now, this 12Z model, the 0006, 12Z, and 18Z runs all give us 48 hours of information. So they take a little longer to get out there. The hours in between, we get an 18-hour forecast. So if I were to select the model and just go back to the 11Z, I've got a full run, right, 100%, but I'm only going to get 18 hours of forecasted weather here. So let's take a look and see what it has on there. And I think we're not going to see much on here. We see a couple sprinkles. See, look at that, coming here and there, popping on some mid-level clouds, probably more than anything else. I wouldn't call that anything at this point. And then it kind of passes off to the northeast. And then we start to see our system picking up. We see the low here and the low here, and in between we're starting to pick up moisture. And this is overnight tonight. So here we are at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the model stops, right? So that's the bad news about the HER. But let's go back to the HER at 6Z. Remember I said 6Z? And notice it shows the moisture there for tonight. Now this is going to go out farther for us. Lafayette is right here. Okay, so there's Lafayette. Look at that square right there, which is the square is Tippecanoe County, of course. And then we can kind of keep an eye on what we see some rain go to our north tonight, right? Kind of passes on by, no big deal. We think, oh, hey, we're still fine. But we're continuing to bring up warm air from the south and more moisture, right? And here's the low that's setting up right in this area here. There's a low in Kansas. There might be another one in Iowa. You can kind of arc it and see where the low that we saw overnight is already passed over Lake Huron. By tomorrow, this is somewhere around 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, then 12 o'clock, and by 1, we see maybe just a slight chance of a shower coming out of a few clouds out in front of the system. But generally speaking, we're high and dry. Maybe by tomorrow evening around 7, 8 o'clock, we see our first showers from it. And I don't see a ton of moisture in here right now. And that is what the big difference, I think, is from where it was looking yesterday. It doesn't look as wet. But let's see what happens. As we get into midnight tomorrow night, we see a band of showers to our north. We also know there are probably some thunderstorms mixed in here with this. But look at this. It's just this. There's no synchronization down to the south. We're not seeing rain all the way down here. We just see scattered little spots of maybe something here or there. And even in our area, there's nothing. At 2 in the morning, there's still no rainfall, right? By that time frame, it's still off to our north. So let's tap into the NAM nest and see what it looks like. See, it shows it just on our doorstep about the same time frame. Here we are at 2 o'clock in the morning. It does give a little more moisture out towards the west, but we don't see a ton of moisture. This is only 50 to 75 mile wide band in a lot of spots, maybe 100 here or there, but it's still just barely getting to Lafayette, and the darker spots are probably more a line of showers or even a thunderstorm or two potential overnight tomorrow night, and it just kind of bounces along us. So, and it keeps most of the moisture to the north, hence the reason we'll get so warm on Tuesday, tomorrow, right? Even though the system's coming. Now I start to see a little more moisture coming off to the south on this, pulling up and coming into the system, getting a little more organized by Wednesday into the afternoon hours. And all we've seen now at this point is some scattered, very light showers here or there, potential. We just don't see a lot over us. We see, just like here's a little shower coming through tomorrow morning, or that would be Tuesday. Now we're talking Wednesday morning. Got to get my days right here. And then we got to keep moving forward. And this very light green is very spotty shower activity at best, right? And that's into Wednesday morning. And so then we go back a little bit and we watch it retreat. We see here Wednesday at 2 in the morning, there's a pretty good band of showers to our north. So if you're Rensselaer, you're up towards, anywhere to the north of Lafayette, say even from Brookston north, it looks like you could see some showers. Okay, so with overnight, tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. And then it just kind of bumps along to our north. It hasn't had that push. Remember I said where does it set up will be the amount of rain we get. And I know I saw earlier that we were supposed to get a lot of rain this week, and that's still a possibility, but at least early in the week, Tuesday into Wednesday, it's setting up just to the north of us, and we're kind of on the southern edge of potential there. So there we go on out to Wednesday. This would be about 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. All right, so let's move it on to the next model. Let's see what the GFS puts the moisture. It looks, remember, we get a little more boxy with the GFS because it's going now in 3-hour periods, and it's spread out its information because this model goes out over 2 weeks. So it's not taking in as much information as the HER is and the NAM nest does for the shorter periods. All right, so that's why we're seeing this boxiness. But we see the line of thunderstorms and showers to our north, and maybe some scattered showers in there. Let's see if it even gave us anything earlier. It doesn't give us much, does it? It does set the stuff up. There we are, Wednesday morning. This is about 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday morning. It shows showers to the north of us at that point, and just lots of scattered stuff out and about. Very hit and miss variety. And the same thing for Tuesday into Wednesday. Everything's just to the north. Okay, but here we are late on Wednesday. There looks like there could be a line of showers here, but still the main extravagant portion of the rain is to our north, and snow is not that far away at this point. This is Wednesday night now. going into Thursday, and now we're starting to see a little bit of a storm here brewing, pops up, but then all of a sudden it gets like cut off from moisture before it gets to us. So what looked like it was going to be a pretty heavy week of rain has now pushed a lot of the rain all the way out to Thursday at this point. That's a line of showers or thunderstorms coming through that's about 8 o'clock on Thursday evening. So we'll call that 4 to say 8 o'clock, somewhere in there. A line of thunderstorms may come through during that time frame. All right, so and then it kind of passes off to the east, and then the next line kind of starts to set up. So it's starting to push the rain off farther later into the week. So now here we are on Saturday evening right here, 5 o'clock. This could be some thunderstorms we'd have to start to worry about here. Okay, so that's the line, and the time frame is late in the day where the humidity and the temperatures can be jacked up during that time frame to help unstabilize the atmosphere. All right, so as we go through the time frame through that, then it kind of goes through and it clears everything out. And we get a little shot of some cooler weather for a while there, right? Monday, Tuesday next week, all right? So that system went through and cleared everything out. So the rains aren't directly over us at the moment for what we're going to see this week. And then next week looks much drier. Here we are all the way out to Friday, and we saw little of anything for precipitation over Lafayette. And then next Saturday, there is some rain in there, just a little bit there. And as we push out, then we start to get back into a southerly flow, and I noticed the rain is coming up from the southwest now on these last couple pictures as we get into the middle of April time frame. So right now it doesn't seem like there's the big rain in the forecast as there was earlier. Let's see what the European model says for rainfall early on here. Different color here, but it's still the same idea. So here we are Monday afternoon, all right? So there's some scattered very light stuff. That's that low stratus it's been picking up on there. Maybe some drizzly kind of stuff with that. But then we go out to, here we are to just about 4 in the morning tonight, right? And then tomorrow morning, and then there's just that one little upper level system. And then we start to see, here's the same thing, a build up to our north, right? Everything is to our north where the rain is setting up right now. And then, boom, there could be a push of a shower or some storms moving through. This shows tomorrow evening on the European model for that. And then it sets up. And this sets up, the European model sets up right on top of us. Look at where that is. That is Lafayette right there in the middle of the yellow. Okay, so this is overnight Wednesday night. This is why we got to keep an eye on this, because the European model is farther south than the others, all right? And then it just stays over us, just like it did with remember when we looked at the other models, it was just north of us, and it was staying just north of us. Well, the European model says it's going to be a little farther south, and it's going to be just over Lafayette. So now I can see why we're seeing different forecasts out there. You may see a little of both at this point. All right, but then it goes kind of through. It passes. We get a little push of warmth to the north on Thursday, and then boom, in comes the line of thunderstorms, possibly on Thursday night into Friday morning. We'll have to watch out for that coming through. Pretty brutal potential there on that. Then it gets a little bit more rain on Saturday. That's your mama or your daddy storm right there. Big low back out to the west. An occlusion, a warm front, and your cold front, all seen on one picture pretty easily. And then it moves through, and then that would be some pretty nasty stuff right here. This is Saturday evening, right, into Sunday morning. So that's when we're going to have to watch out for that big line of thunderstorms to develop and come through. And remember, the European model and the GFS pick up on big systems like that a lot easier than they do the little stuff. So that, and then there's nothing. Look at that, all next week, same thing, just like we saw in the GFS, nothing in our area until late in the week, and then that system breaks apart. The dreaded Lafayette Dome, where the rain goes north and south of us, or east and west and misses us somehow. That's going into Monday, April 13th, and still high and dry there, at least on that front. So here we go back to the beginning, and well, let's go back to the HER real quick here, and then we'll switch up and we'll zoom in and look at some temperatures, all right, and see what the temperatures are going to do for us here. We're obviously, this is where we are right now. Monday, 12Z. That's a little too early. Here we go. Where are we at? Oh, I'm looking at that. Gotcha. All right, so it says it should be somewhere 14, about 10 o'clock. We should be around 56. We know we were 59, so we're off on the HERS model, but this is from like 6 hours ago, right, already. But it says temperatures up to 58, 65. Here we are into the lower 70s, mid 70s. Right there was 75 was about as high as you saw in there, but 80s are not far away from us at all. And it kind of cuts along with where the clouds are too, right? Cloud cover here, no cloud cover over here, and a lot warmer out to the west and to our northwest. So like this is one of those days where like up north of us, Rensselaer, maybe all the way up to Valpo and that kind of thing might be a degree or two warmer than us kind of thing. But we'll be somewhere between 75 and 80, depending on the clouds. I always like the bump, so 78, we'll call it 79, 80 for a lot of us, especially if you're out towards Attica, that kind of thing. As we go through the nighttime tonight, we don't drop off much again either, do we? So here we are Tuesday morning. Tomorrow morning, we're still hovering around 60 degrees, far above our normal high of roughly 55, 56 this time of the year. And then it just kind of stays there tomorrow, too. And then now, I think tomorrow we're going to be picking up in and out clouds, so it doesn't get that much warmer, right, as this system is developing out towards our west. But look at this. We get into a nice pocket into the afternoon hours tomorrow where we could get into the low 80s to mid 80s even. I see a little dark patch right there showing me somewhere around 82, 83. There you go. And that's north of us. That's north of Lafayette. So pockets of clouds, pockets of open spots might allow us to get into the low 80s tomorrow pretty easily, maybe even the mid 80s. As potential for tomorrow. But then I also see that we're lining up the warmth here and the cold here on the HER at that point. Let's see what the NAM Nest says here. It continues with it. It is. I noticed the NAM Nest cold weather was a little farther to the north. When you look at this, let's switch back and forth from one to the other. Okay, you see that there's a little bit farther trend to the south where the 60s are. And then when you pop it back up, it's the 70s. When you look at the NAM a little bit farther to the north, and you go look at the NAM Nest and it gets a little more detailed, comes in closer. Okay, so this is for Tuesday night at around 8 o'clock where we've dropped back off to about 70 degrees. Very nice night temperature-wise. And then this will be the night that's going to be very questionable at this point, whether we get rain or no rain, or does it stay north of us or come south of us. And the NAM wants to push it down here and push it through us at that point. So what did the NAM Nest say on rainfall? We did look at that already, did we not? I'm pretty sure we did. Here we are early on, boom, 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 and we see the temperature. Nothing's happening. We just get these light scattered stuff. Here we are through today. There's some sprinkles, maybe some fog down here overnight tonight. That's probably more likely what we're seeing there. And then we're going to move off towards the east, and we don't see anything. Everything is just moving east, but it's north of us set up. And then we see a couple scattered showers here or there. Here's Lafayette right here, and then there's a line of showers and thunderstorms, but they're all moving along the frontal boundary out here, which is kind of stationary, not moving much. It's wobbling a little bit north and south, just here and there. Right, kind of thing with the weather. And then it tries to push some weather down to us tomorrow night around midnight, obviously north of town, with town being right here, and we just seem to be right on the front of the battleground of where things are going to happen. And this model shows it coming just down to us, and it hits us and then kind of dissipates, moves through. So the NAM Nest is showing it a little closer and over the top of us, and the HER had it getting to us but doesn't go out far enough at this point to let us know what it's going to be like tomorrow night. So I'm getting like and then the European model had it right over us, right? But the GFS had it north of us. So it's still going to keep the rain in the forecast for tomorrow night, I think. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. That looks enough that I got to keep an eye on it. If I go back to the HER and its precipitation, there it is on that one. Let's see how much farther it is on the new model run. It's 64% done, so it's up to 19Z on Tuesday, so that's tomorrow afternoon. And it doesn't show any rain overnight. It just keeps it just north of us. And there's potential for some thunderstorms in here. So this might be one of those nights you look off to the north and you see flashes of lightning out there to the north. And you're like, wow, hey, well, I hope we don't get anything. And it just stays up there to our north, unless you are north of town, and then you have a better chance of seeing something. And right now, and this goes all the way out right now to 19Z tomorrow during the day, which is going to be about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, so this one we're talking about here, which is 15Z. Or 15 local, all right, because there's a 4-hour difference now. Lafayette here, this looks like a line of thunderstorms. I got to keep an eye on that, see what this thing develops, and by the time we're done with the hour here, we'll be able to take a good look at that. But temperature-wise, going back to it, we see that it's just going to stay pretty mild through this entire time frame. Shows the same thing. Shows us in the 80s tomorrow. What does it say for a high today for us? On the new run, it's still showing us right 79, 80 degrees, somewhere right in there. So there we are. So we're right at the same temperatures within a degree or so. We don't see a dramatic change in the rain other than there's some showers developing there. Now, I did want to go back to the Storm Prediction Center real quick. You notice there's a chance for thunderstorms in Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and we're kind of in there, but look at this bulge up where there's no, Lafayette's like right on the edge there. And so it's just a chance of a thunderstorm. For us, that would be a stray thunderstorm. But for Chicago, they're going to get some thunderstorms probably tonight. Definitely out towards central Iowa, they're going to definitely get into some kind of thunderstorms tonight. All right, so that's what they're saying. Now, let's take a look at tomorrow, though. Watch how this changes tomorrow. Boom, moves right over the top of us, and we're right about here, all right? So we're close to the yellow, which on this chart is considered slight chance with marginal around us. But what I, generally speaking, in the marginal area, you got a good chance for thunderstorms, right? And then in the yellow area, you got a chance for severe weather, but in the center portion of that, a lot of times is where the best chance for the severe weather is, and a lot of times they'll throw an enhanced area in there. But so we're kind of on the tail end of that, and we're out here on the southwestern edge of the bulb for tomorrow, all right? And it doesn't really get us into the mix for some severe weather, but we got to keep an eye on that. That'll update every 6 to 12 hours depending on how the weather's going with them. And then it just shows general chance for some thunderstorms on Wednesday, and that's it on there. So something to keep an eye out on. Tomorrow we'll have more details. We'll be able to tell whether it's going to rain a better chance by tomorrow evening, and maybe even later this afternoon we'll have a really good fix on it. That is for sure. And so when I went to my friend's website. I talked to you about my friend, and he's got this website he's got going called C2G Weather, and I put in, he calls it cloud to ground weather, which to us is cloud to ground lightning. That's the way we talk about it. And he's running this website, and you type in the airport or wherever your destination is, and it gives you out all this information. This is stuff the way forecasters, especially different branches, look at different things. But I know, having worked with the Air Force and with the Navy and with the Marine Corps, the Air Force is big on these, a lot of these charts like this. And the Marine Corps, we use them. We use a bit more charts at times, I think, at times. That's just a small difference in the two. But this tells me a lot, because what I was looking for was when were the rain chances. And look at this, and thunderstorm chances. And it was way out here, right, for tomorrow evening. And it said yes. Everywhere else it was a no. And when I first saw that, I was like, but hey, there's a lot of rain on the forecast. But now I see, well, some of the models are packing it to the north of us, right? That's what it's doing with it there. So that's why we're seeing it as it is. So the thunderstorm activity, so that kind of thing is what we got to watch out for. And are we going to get those showers? And it looks like tomorrow evening there'll be a chance, not a great chance at this point. So that's when I started questioning, are we going to get some storms today? Are we not going to get any tomorrow? That kind of thing. When I think yesterday, a lot of the forecasts were saying it's going to rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So now we're seeing adjustments already being made. Let's see what the cloud cover looks like right now. As we take a look at it, we're starting to see some more of the holes out there starting to pop up. Look at that big gap out to the west of Lafayette right now. So we should start to see some sunshine here in the next half hour or so for most of us. Meanwhile, the models just aren't going to help us out a lot with being numbers, right? I mean, realistically, looking at the model, they're very close to each other. It's just one has it north of us, one has it just on us, one has it just north of us, one has it just on us, right? So that's why you can have questions, and you might see a big swing depending on where you're at tomorrow. So let's think of it this way. The farther south you are, the less the chance you'll get some precipitation for the next few days. The farther north you are, the better chance you're going to run into some of that in and out showery activity and thunderstorm activity over the next 2 or or 3 days. That's where we're going to look at it right now and how we're going to run through that at this point. All right, so not bad there on the satellite picture coming in through us where we can see some holes now and everything. All right, so let's go out and look at the temperatures long range, though. I want to see what's going to happen long range. And are we going to see anything? Is there a chance for some snow? I didn't see any snow on any of those charts. Did you? No. And we can still see snow into April pretty easily. But generally around here, we start tapering off our snowfall by the middle of March. And it's pretty much gone by then. So we may be in that factor. All right, so here we go. This is Wednesday. So we know what we're going to be very warm the next couple days. Will Wednesday still be warm? Well, model's saying we still may be in the 60s to 70s, right? And then you notice where's the band of the tightest gradient between the 30s and the 70s. It's right over Lafayette. So this is Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, and this is where all of you got your winds coming this direction, right? And then you got your winds just 50 miles away going the opposite direction. And in between is usually where everything's at for precipitation. So this is the GFS. But then look at, there's a push back to the north on Wednesday night into Thursday. And that would take most of the rain away from us the rest of the period, right? So Thursday looks a little drier, and that we noticed, but very warm on temperatures on Thursday again. So we had the cold day on Wednesday may drop us down, right? And it's all dependent on how this front, and I keep going like this with my hands, right? Because stationary fronts, they might be running in an angle, but they'll do this. They'll wave along the same spot, right? Kind of like you run and so it'll get warm, it'll get cold. It'll get warm, it'll get cold. Showers, no showers. Showers, no showers, right? That's the kind of thing with a stationary front. You get a little bit of everything along it a lot of times. And the other good news about systems that are kind of stationary like that, running along the same spot, is the jet stream usually is not right over them, which helps power severe weather a little bit more, a better chance for it. All right. So here we are, Friday. Friday still looks warm. It looks like some 70s there on Friday. Then on Saturday, we're going to pop in, and we look like some 60s, but look at that. Did you see the cold air pop in off to the west there? Let's see what happens with that for a couple days. Yep, there it is. Coming back on Sunday. Looks like we'll have a reinforcement shot of some cold weather. Easter Sunday, unfortunately, right now. Easter Sunday. Let's look at the morning. Here we are at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 37 degrees with a 10-knot wind. That'll be a wind chill of around 25 to 30 for most of us, okay? That's what we'll probably see for most of us. And then it doesn't get that warm. Maybe look at that, it's about 50, low 50s maybe, late in the day on Sunday, unfortunately for us. And then it's cold Monday morning. We're back down to like 28 to 30 for our low temperature. Probably some clear skies that morning if that stays on track. And as we go into next week, we see temperatures are actually colder, aren't they? So we've gotten that cold spell to kind of kick in, but we see some growing warmth out to our west as we get into this would be Tuesday afternoon. It's only in the 50s, which is just below normal for this time of the year. And then we're back into the 60s by the middle of next week. And we're still there again by Thursday next week. Now we're into the 70s again, so we're rebounding. So our length of our warmth and cold is a little longer this week compared to what it was last week. Last week it was 2 days of cold and 3 or 4 days of warm. Looks like this week it's 3 or 4 days of warm, 3 or 4 days of cold, 3 or 4 days of warm then. And you can see that by the end of next week. It's real warm. Now, normally the temperatures are climbing this time of the year, so we can expect that, of course. And I don't see any real big cold coming in all the way out to Monday, April 13th. Here we are late in the day there. We're in the 60s and 70s. So it looks like we get more consistent, but it's going to be a week of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And no, I'm not going to sing, all right? So you see that on that front. One of the other things I wanted to look at real quick was what are we talking about for winds here, at least in the next 24 to 48 hours. Wind gusts, there we go. So we're at 17, roughly gusting to 17 early this morning, all right? And with a temperature of 60, it takes 5 degrees away from you. It doesn't take much. But look at how it gets a little gusty this afternoon. But this also helps bring in the warmth. Remember, especially early March and maybe even in February, the trade-off for getting warm weather is you have to get big winds in to pull it in from the south. Well, look how strong the gustiness is here later today, right? So here we are by 10 o'clock. Right now, it's starting to pick up wind-wise. There we are. We're back up to gusts to 30s, low 30s. Now these are knots, so this is like 30. It shows 35 knots. That's about 40 miles an hour. Okay, so there's some gusts of 40 just by this afternoon. I'm wondering if they'll put out some wind advisories for this. We'll have to go back and look, see if anything's out yet already. And it just stays there for a little bit, but it stays in the mid-20s, so they probably don't have an advisory out, not strong enough. And then they pick back up tonight. We're gusting to like 30 again. So those are gusts to 35 miles an hour. And then we're back down into the 20s for tomorrow. Now, these are wind gusts. The sustained wind is always, for instance, say if you have a 10-knot wind and you have gusts to, say, 17, right? That's kind of how it works. But the steady wind is at right around 10 knots. But you see upward ticks to 17 at times. But you would see lower side to like 8, right? Or 6, something along those lines. Because the wind is not a steady. Sometimes it feels like that, but it's not steady. It's usually up and down, up and down. So you get this little scraggly line of here it is at 6, here it is at 8, here it is at 10, there's 17, back down, 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 up and down, up and down. Just constant. That's the way a wind chart works, and that's how the wind works. So that's why you see some variances in here also at times. So gusts to 25, we see some wind pass to our north tonight, right? That's where that shot of severe weather was, right? Remember we were talking about that for tonight? There it is. So back out to the west, there in Iowa, there's their chance for thunderstorms moving through. It looks like Chicago too. And then you can see the gustiness and the winds around those thunderstorms as they move along the frontal boundary to the north, all right? And then look at how windy it gets tomorrow. Woo! We picked up. We were in the teens overnight. Then we pick up in the morning to like 35, 36 for knots right in our local area around us, 37 even. So now we're talking pushing 45 miles an hour for windiness tomorrow. So another very windy day tomorrow, all day too. And then late in the day, we start to pick up some winds here. So this is what we like to call low-level jets. The lower-level jets, not necessarily at the surface. They're usually just above the surface, say 500 feet to 5,000 feet off the ground, give or take, depending on what you're talking, low-level jets somewhere in there. But look at how strong some of these gusty winds are. This is tomorrow evening, right? This is, let's see, that's 8 o'clock. This is 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Gust to 40s in Lafayette. You're talking gusts to 35, 34 there. It looks like real close. But just north of town, up here to Monticello, you're talking 44, 45, right? Which is closing in on 50 miles an hour in here. So they may have something out for that tomorrow into the afternoon. And you notice it kind of moves west to east, but it's along a line just to the north of Lafayette. And then it's by 5 o'clock, it's out here to the east of town. It's over towards Fort Wayne more, the pocket of the winds that are like that, and they go by. What did we just see on the one for tonight? And I told you, watch for those winds, and there could be a pocket of storms along there, right? And that's what we'll see right here. So do some storms develop during the day tomorrow, move along the frontal boundary just to our north. Hence the reason we're in this pocket, right? And then it shows most of the chances of severe weather like right in here, right? And the kind of keeps the winds just to the south, and then you kind of see it firing up again overnight. Here we are at 10 o'clock at night, and there's your popping of your real thunderstorms right there into the evening hours and overnight, and it kind of goes away. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. So very gusty winds the next couple of days. Be prepared for that, especially tomorrow and this afternoon. Gustiness, hold your hat in your head, whatever you're doing. It's still going to be pretty warm, though, at least on that front. So a lot going on. It's spring. We expect that. It's not the summer where I can just say, hey, it's going to be hot every day, and I talk to you for 10 minutes and we talk about other things. No, I'm going to be talking. Look at this. We went 45 minutes already, guys. I'm sorry. There's just a lot there to talk about and to look at and to see. And I didn't even get to sports yet. I'm going to switch over to sports for a little bit right now, and we're going to talk about Purdue and what happened to Purdue this weekend and how they performed and what happened with them. And then we're going to come back to weather just for a little bit. We'll see if there's any updates on the new and maybe it's a little closer in and a little bit better, okay, by that time frame. And then we'll come back to that picture here in just a little bit. But right now, we know Purdue men's basketball team was a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they were taking on Arizona. after beating Texas on Thursday to get into the Elite Eight. They were taking on Arizona, who arguably is the best team in the country. And I started looking at it, and I was like, wow, Purdue will have to beat Arizona, then they will have to beat Michigan, and then they would have to beat Duke to win the national championship. And if they did that, that's quite the gauntlet to play. But things didn't quite go as everybody had hoped. While they won Tuesday on a last-second tip-in against Texas, the first half was outstanding, one of the best halves they played all year. Everything worked. They were keeping Arizona from scoring a bit. They were scoring at will, it seemed like, because they are the number one team in the country, so you would expect that for their offense. And then a stinker happened afterwards. And a lot of that has to do with Arizona, because Arizona said, hey, not here. We're the number one team in the country. We're the number one team in this seed, in this bracket. And they started putting their force and putting their shoulders into everybody's chest. And while it wasn't called and a lot of people complained about it, both sides had the same calls. I saw Purdue trying to do the same thing too at times, just not as aggressive as Arizona was. And the 7-point lead, they had a 7-point lead at half, evaporated within 5 minutes and was gone, and they were behind by 8, like within the first 7 minutes of the second half, and didn't get any better from there. By the time it was done, they ended up losing the ball game 79-64 after having a big lead. 7-point lead is pretty big in the NCAA tournament at that point. And so it didn't go well. It ended poorly, 79-64 loss, and that was on Saturday. They end the year at 30 wins, 9 losses. No complaints about 30 wins. That is the third time they've had a 30-win season in school history, and they dropped to 0-10 all-time in the NCAA tournament game against the number 1 seed, and who doesn't have a record like that? It's pretty much everybody's 0 for or 1 for or 2 for when they're against the number 1 seed, all right? A lot of the teams are anyway. Purdue lost for the first time at a neutral site this season, and they fell to 10-1 on neutral sites. And Purdue finished the year 18-4 away from Mackey Arena. So a really good season. Some of the teams Purdue lost to. They lost to Iowa State, the number 6 team, the number 13 Illinois, who made the Final Four. They lost to Michigan, the number 1 team at the time, and they beat Michigan, though, later, so that was good. They lost to Michigan State, who was 11th at the time. Wisconsin was 19th. Arizona officially is number 2 in the country right now. That Duke was ahead of them. That won't be the way it is. Arizona's going to move up, right? Obviously, because Duke lost yesterday on a last-second shot. And the loss to Arizona was Purdue's first loss away from Mackey Arena to a ranked team all season. So they had been putting the hurting on everybody else. The Purdue senior class, though, finished their careers with 117 wins, 32 losses, setting the school record for most wins by a senior class. And the group won 4 of a possible 8 Big Ten championships between the 2 regular seasons and 2 tournament championships. They won those. They reached the 2024 national championship game and a pair of Sweet 16s, posting a 10-4 NCAA tournament record, and no one would complain about that. Those of you big-time Indiana whiners, hey, get into the tournament, all right? It would be nice if both of the teams were really good again. Instead of Indiana gets up to play Purdue and get 1 win every year, and then they're all excited about it. Sorry, I rooted for Indiana for the national championship in football. But the people on the internet are a lot of Indiana fans talking about, they didn't even get into the tournament, but they're going to say something to Purdue about losing to Arizona. So that annoys me. I don't understand that. Purdue set a single season record with a 2.19 assist-to-turnover ratio. Only 349 turnovers and 764 assists. That got them some wins in some games. That got them some losses, just like any team when they had some turnovers. Turnovers were a little bit heavy yesterday in the second half. And Arizona had 0 turnovers in the second half yesterday. So that helped them climb, too, pretty easily. Purdue's 359 three-pointers were the second most in school history, and Braden Smith scored. Of course, there's a lot of stuff for Braden, all right? He scored 13 points with 7 assists and 5 rebounds, ending his career with 1,932 points, which is 8th in Purdue history, 1,103 assists, which is number one in NCAA history, 673 rebounds, 17th in Purdue history, and 249 steals, third in Purdue history. He is the only player. Now, he's the number one in assists, but he's the only player in NCAA history to have at least 1,500 points, 1,000 assists, and 500 rebounds. That's quite the deal right there. Smith set the NCAA record for most minutes also played in a 4-year career, totaling 5,067. And I can remember many times whining, why did you take him out? He had a chance for a triple-double, just like everybody else. Smith finished the season with 345 assists, the fifth most in NCAA history, and there have been 5 seasons of a player with at least 500 points, 300 assists, and 125 rebounds, and Smith had 2 of those 5. There you go. Fletch ended with 1,829 points, good for 11th on the Purdue career scoring list, and he finished his career with a school record 309 three-pointers. And yes, at the end of the game, they left Fletch wide open in the corner, and they got an easy triple late in the game when it didn't matter any, but that was the last official assist from Braden was to Fletcher in the corner, and Fletcher's last official three-pointer. So that was kind of cool. And then let's don't forget TKR. All right, TKR had 10 points to finish his career with 1655, good for 19th place on the school's scoring records. He totaled 762 rebounds, good for 11th place on the school's career rebounding list. And those of us who know and have watched the team know that TKR gave of himself for the team. He could have scored 20 points a game this season, every single game, but he focused more on rebounding. He thought it was going to be better for the team. That's what he did. He gave in, and he was under the tutelage of when Zach was here, trying to fill in with Zach when he could have been the big scorer too at that point, because we all saw that he was ready for a breakout, and that's what we saw last year, all right? So, Trey, TKR, you're part of this too, buddy. We know you gave a lot for the team, all right? The senior class obviously set the record of 4-year span, winning its 117th game when they beat Texas that game. And head coach Matt Painter's squad was led in scoring in the setback by the Boilers' newest senior transfer, Oscar Clough, who battled for 14. Oh, he had a double-double. I didn't even realize that. You know how you lose track? If the game was over, it was like, Clough had a double-double with 14 and 10. And Smith had 13 and 7 assists, of course. It was a great season. Nobody can complain about the season, I don't think, anyway. Purdue led 38-31 at the half. In the second half, got outscored 48-26. And yes, that was their second lowest stinker half of the season. And that happens because they were the number 3 defense in the country, I believe. So you can't say that it wasn't just Purdue. It was obviously Arizona. And I think possibly Purdue played so well in the first half. They're saying the story in Arizona is the coach walked out and let the players talk about it. I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure somebody got yelled at somewhere about how bad they played in the first half, how they were behind, and it didn't seem like they had the life that Purdue had. And then it reversed. It seemed like what Purdue was playing hard, Arizona was playing 3 times as hard. It just seemed that way. There were guys getting run over pretty well, and there were no calls being called. So that happens, and that's part of the game. We're seeing plays like there was the phantom call on TKR, where you clearly show the guy with his hand on his back holding his shirt and pulling on him, and then as TKR tries to get away with the elbow and pushing it up, he got called for the foul. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Who cares? Arizona probably still wins that game even if everything goes right in the second half for Purdue because Arizona played so well in the second half. That being said, if Purdue could have mustered, 42 points up, they win the game. But that's just part of the game, right? Arizona did the mustering. They were the men on the court in the second half, and Purdue kind of whimpered away scoring-wise. They just couldn't make anything. I kept seeing wide open shots and nobody made anything. And that just happens. That's part of it. I also believe, based on the 2 games, that rim on that side was the weaker of the rims. I didn't like the sound. I don't know if any of you liked that sound either when it came around. So, but But that's it for the Purdue season. They are done, and now I'm heading into Cubby territory for me now. That means I got to see what's happening with the Cubs. They lost yesterday, but they're 1-2 on the season. They did the same thing last season. It's early. It's cold. We don't know what's going to happen with some of these teams. I think the Cubs play again today. Right around noon. I think they've been at home for their first 6 games of the season this year. That means they end away. Usually that's how that works out. You start the season at home, you end away, and then the next year they flip-flop it, right? But Cubs have signed 2 of their players. Nico Horner signed a 6-year extension, and Pete Crow Armstrong, PCA, signed, I think, a 5-year extension. So the Cubs have them locked up, or maybe both of them were 6. But we got them, guys. We got an infield that is the best in Major League Baseball, between Gold Gloves and solid ball play right there. And we've got them locked up for like 5 years. So this is going to be a great infield. You got a great outfield. Guys, a couple guys may come and go here or there. Your catcher's doing great, and right now you're in last place. Yeah, it's only 1 game. We're barely started the season. Cubs are 1-2, along with Pittsburgh. Cincinnati and St. Louis are both 2-1, and Milwaukee's 3-0. We'll see how things go over the next few weeks and how it kind of tailors off. Pastor Billy was bugging me. Did I buy Marquee yet? Because when I go and get Marquee, they lose. He might be about right sometimes with that. It sure feels like that. All right, the Cubs are on TV, and it is a night game tonight. And I can tell you right now, it is on, where is it? Is it the Monday night game for Major League Baseball? I think it may be, but it's still probably on Marquee too, and chances are pretty good that game's going to get rained out. They're playing the Los Angeles, not the Dodgers, the Angels, tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday during the day. We looked at the weather up there real quick. There's a lot of rain up there compared to here today, especially, and then tomorrow a little less. So we'll see if they get that season and those games in over the next couple of days there for Los Angeles, or the Angels coming in. And then they go to Cleveland, they go to Tampa Bay, so they're getting a lot of their American League games out here early, right? And then they come back for Pittsburgh and Philly. Pittsburgh, then back over to Philly. So the month is filled. They're going to have an East Coast swing here, that they're going to play teams from the East Coast and go to the East Coast. And then the Dodgers come in late in the season. We go out there, the Cubs do, Friday, April 24th, so way out in the end of the season. They're already 20 games into the season by that point. They go to L.A. and San Diego early. Arizona and Cincinnati come to town early May. And then Texas and Atlanta on the road, and Chicago, so they're back and forth every 6 games or so. They're going on the road somewhere. All right, so let's take a look at the current weather. We've bounced back up to 62 degrees. Here it is right there. Mostly cloudy skies. It says mostly cloudy. That's good. 13 miles an hour out of the west, southwest, maybe even closer to southwest. High temperature, I think, will maybe get to 80 because it seems like we see some holes in the clouds. Maybe potential rain tomorrow getting into the picture. Same for Wednesday and Thursday. And it's all dependent on where the front is. If it waves farther to the north, we'll stay out of it for a bit. If it comes farther south, we'll get colder and we'll get some rain. And then we'll warm up again as it waves back to the north. And we're going to see a little bit of the ins and outs there. So a normal springtime weather is what we are going to see here, folks. That's what we're seeing on that front. How about the cameras? There's back down south, but let's go back up towards Lafayette here. Let's see if we can see some sunshine out towards the West Lafayette side. Oh, yeah, the ground is getting brighter here on West Lafayette out there. Let's see what else we got here. We're panning out towards Purdue, out by the airport, and it's getting pretty bright on the ground out there in spots. And then, sure enough, nice and bright over by the Exchange, where you go, where River Road, 52 and 231 all come together there at that given point. What else we got here? And then back to the, of course, what are we going to call it? The mall. I guess we call it the mall for sure. Malls are falling apart. Are we going to give them a different name? Our mall is still kind of vibrant and still working, I think. So we'll have to see. But a lot of malls are falling apart here. It's something to think about. I don't know whether it's going to actually stay that way for everybody or not. But we'll see how it goes. All right, here we go. Here it is going through. Passing through, you can see it. You can see here on the infrared that the skies are starting to open up right over Lafayette. Boom, right into the opening there. Let's change it to the visual real quick here. Let's go to the day cloud phase. Watch the skies open up. Yep, sure enough, right there. You see it pretty easily. Let's use the red mode. There you go. You can see it a little bit easier on this visual now. You just start to pick up the clouds as the sun comes up, and you start to see it. We are right there, and you can see how the opening comes right to us. That's not bad. Hey, because, we weren't sure when we first saw the picture. So we're seeing some stratocumuliform clouds. Look at how the enhancement picks up a little bit to the north and a little bit to the south of us. We see that, and no real showery activity anywhere in the Midwest. From Iowa to Illinois, just about, there's not a cloud in the sky there. All of Missouri looks open pretty much. Just some high wispy clouds I can see right there, and that's about it. So generally speaking, not a bad day, guys. Let's come back out here. We're going to call it a day. Hopefully you have a good day. Get out and about. Try to get some things done. It's warm. It's going to be windy, but the wind will help bring up the warmth. We're going to get up somewhere close to 80 today, and we may be in the actually lower 80s tomorrow as a potential, and it all depends on where the front wavers. I'll be back in again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'll give you an idea of what's going on, especially for tomorrow evening, if we're going to get into any of that severe weather or if it's going to stay to our north, as it's real close to us, but it looks like a lot of it's to the north at this point, but we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll have more of a heads up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. It's been great talking to each and every one of you. You have a blessed day. We'll see you tomorrow.